The judge looked down at the accounting, then back at my brother. Mister, I want to make sure I understand your position. Leaned toward the microphone. I borrowed the money temporarily. I always intended to replace it. The judge turned one page. $68,500. Swallowed. Yes. From a trust created for a 16-year-old child whose mother is deceased. His attorney touched his sleeve but kept talking. The restaurant was in trouble. I was protecting jobs. Our family has always helped each other. I felt Lily's fingers tighten around mine under the table. Then the judge pointed to one line in the bank records. And this payment to East Carolina University. Was that also necessary to protect restaurant jobs? Stopped breathing for half a second. His son attended East Carolina. Lily did not. The courtroom became completely still. For months had told everyone the same story. Temporary loan, family emergency, money going back before Lily needed it. That one payment broke the story open, because it proved the trust had not only saved his business, it had become his private family account. And for the first time since my sister died, I watched someone explain himself without letting him change the subject. My younger sister used to say our family had 3 emergency settings. I handled medical emergencies, handled money emergencies, handled everything emotional. That was mostly a joke until she died. Was 38 when a driver ran a red light on Avenue and hit the passenger side of her car. She lived for 4 days after the crash. Her daughter Lily was 15. I work as a pediatric respiratory therapist at a hospital in Raleigh. I am trained to stay useful when other people are panicking. That week, usefulness became the only language I could speak. I dealt with doctors. I found Lily clean clothes. I called the school. I sat beside's bed after visiting hours because a nurse I knew pretended not to notice. Handled calls with the insurance company and its employer. He was 46 then, the oldest of us, and he had always liked being the person who knew what paperwork mattered. After died, we learned she had updated her life insurance 3 years earlier. Most of it passed directly into a trust for Lily. The trust held about $126,000 after final expenses and fees. Had named trustee. That did not surprise me. Owned Smokehouse, a barbecue restaurant in Durham that had been in operation for 11 years. He talked to lenders, negotiated leases, managed payroll, and could look at a spreadsheet without his eyes glazing over. I was named Lily's guardian. That surprised nobody either. Lily and I had always been close. I lived 20 minutes from. I had a spare bedroom. My divorce had been final for almost 4 years and I had no children of my own. The arrangement made emotional sense. Raises Lily. Manages the money. For the first few months, we worked together well. He sent me a copy of the trust summary. He explained that the money was intended for education, medical needs not otherwise covered, housing support after high school, and other expenses that benefited Lily. Don't think of it as a checking account, he told me at Mom's kitchen table. Wanted it protected. I agreed. Lily did not need the trust for day-to-day life. I could cover groceries, clothes, school activities, and most ordinary expenses. Suggested leaving the account mostly invested until college. That gives it time to grow, he said. Again I agreed. There was something comforting about dividing the responsibility. I was already learning how to raise a grieving teenager while grieving my sister myself. Knowing was handling the money let me put one problem in a box marked safe. That first year, Lily started therapy. She quit soccer. She began painting at night, usually small landscapes in dark blue and green. Sometimes she would sit at the kitchen island while I cooked and tell me things she could not say in therapy. I hate when people tell me Mom would want me to be happy. Why? Because then being sad feels like I'm disappointing her. I put down the knife I was holding. You never owe dead people a performance. She stared at me for a second. Then she cried. That was our life. Messy, sad, slowly improving. Every few months I asked about the trust. He always had the same answer. Conservative, stable, don't touch it unless we need to. I had no reason not to believe him. At least that is what I told myself later. There had been signs. The restaurant had shortened its hours. His wife started doing more shifts herself. Sold his fishing boat. At Thanksgiving, I overheard him telling our mother that food costs were killing margins. But struggling business and stolen trust money are not the same thought. You do not connect them until something forces you to. For me, that something was an envelope that arrived on a Tuesday in March. The envelope was from Piedmont Community Trust Bank. I almost threw it into the stack of mail for later. 3 weeks earlier, I had submitted paperwork updating Lily's mailing address for several accounts after her 16th birthday. Apparently, the trust bank had updated its correspondence address too. I opened the statement while standing at the kitchen counter. Beginning balance, $119,842.16. That number looked reasonable. Ending balance, $51,906.43. I read it again. Then I sat down. There were several ordinary investment changes and fees. Then the withdrawals, $18,000, $12,500, $9,000, $15,000, $8,000, $6,000. The transfers had occurred over 8 months. Some descriptions were vague. Trustee reimbursement, beneficiary support, temporary business advance. I picked up my phone and called. He answered on the 4th ring. Hey, everything okay? I got Lily's trust statement. Silence. Not long. Maybe 2 seconds. Long enough. Why is there $52,000 left? He sighed. I was going to talk to you. When? When I had the cash flow stabilized. What cash flow? The restaurant. I stood up so fast the chair scraped the floor. You put Lily's money into the restaurant. Do not say it like that. How should I say it? I borrowed against money that was sitting there while the business hit a temporary problem. You borrowed from a child. She isn't using it right now. The words made my stomach turn. Listen, if the restaurant failed, 12 people could lose income. That is not Lily's responsibility. I know that. No, you don't. He lowered his voice, as if I were the one being unreasonable. I am trustee, I have discretion. For her benefit, and keeping the family stable benefits her. I actually laughed. It came out sharp and ugly. No, you don't understand business. There is $68,000 missing. It is not missing. Then where is it? I just told you. No, you told me a story about the restaurant. I want every transfer. He went quiet again. Then he said, I will send you a summary. I want statements. You don't need raw statements. I'm her guardian. I am the trustee. There it was. Not an explanation. A wall. That evening he emailed me a 1-page spreadsheet. It listed 5 broad categories. Restaurant bridge loan, $39,500. Family reimbursement, $11,000. Education support, $8,000. Emergency transportation, $6,000. Trust administration, $4,000. Total, $68,500. I stared at education support. Lily had no tuition. She attended public high school. Her therapy was covered through insurance and paid separately. I called him again. What is the $8,000 in education support? He did not answer. It was for. I stopped moving. His son, my nephew, 20 years old, college sophomore. You paid tuition from Lily's trust. It was a short-term gap. Financial aid was delayed. I pressed my fingers against my forehead. You used money left by Lily's dead mother to pay your son's college bill. That is a disgusting way to phrase it. It is the exact way to phrase it. He hung up. A minute later, Lily walked into the kitchen carrying a sketchbook. You okay? I looked at her. She had eyes. I folded the statement in half. Yeah, I said. It was the first lie I told her about the trust. I hated for making me tell it. I did not tell Lily everything immediately. She was 16, not 6, but she had already spent a year learning that adults could disappear without warning. I wanted facts before I gave her another thing to be afraid of. Use that delay against me. The next morning, he called our mother. By noon, Mom called me. Your brother says you are threatening him over the trust. I asked for statements. He says the restaurant is recovering. Good. So what is the problem? I sat in my car in the hospital parking deck. The problem is that he took $68,500 from Lily's trust without telling me. He is the trustee. I closed my eyes. He paid tuition. Mom hesitated. Then she said, is family too? That sentence changed the conversation. Not because she agreed with, because she did not hear what was wrong. Mom, Lily's trust is not a family fund. Nobody said it was. You just did. She became defensive. Your brother has always carried everyone financially. That part was partly true. Had paid for Mom's furnace once. He had helped with a security deposit years earlier. He had covered funeral catering without asking us to repay him. In our family, generosity had become part of his identity. Maybe that was why he believed being generous with someone else's money still counted. 2 days later called. She sounded exhausted. Can we talk without attorneys? I have not hired one. Thinks you will. Should I? She sighed. The restaurant had a brutal winter. The landlord raised rent, catering contracts dropped, and one of the smokers needed replacement. He thought he could put the money back after summer events. Did you know it came from Lily's trust? I knew some money came from family funds. That is not what I asked. A long silence. I did not know all of it. What did you know? That moved some money he controlled. Did you know about tuition? No. I believed her. Not completely. Enough to hear the fear in her voice. That night sent me a text. You are putting my marriage and my business at risk over money Lily does not need for 2 years. I typed 3 replies and deleted all of them. Finally I wrote, send complete trust statements and records of every disbursement. He responded, you are making this hostile. I wrote, the withdrawals made it hostile. Then the relatives arrived. Our cousin Jason called and said had made one bad judgment call. My aunt said court would tear the family apart. Mom told me would never want Lily to be the reason the restaurant closed. That one almost got me, not because I believed it, because grief makes dead people easy to weaponize. Was not here to say what she wanted, but she had created a trust. That was something she had actually done. At dinner 3 nights later, Lily noticed I kept checking my phone. Is this about Uncle? I froze. Why? He texted me. Every muscle in my shoulders tightened. What did he say? She handed me her phone. Hey kiddo, just want you to know adults are arguing about some financial stuff but your college money is safe. I would never hurt you. Don't let anyone scare you. I read it twice. Lily watched my face. Is my college money not safe? I could have delayed again. I did not. Some of your trust money was used for things that were not for you. Her expression went blank. How much? About 68,000. She stared at me. Out of what? About 126. She whispered, oh. Then she asked the question that stripped away every excuse had offered. Why did he get to decide that? I had no answer. Because he did not get to. He had simply decided he did. I gave one chance to fix the problem privately. Not because he deserved secrecy. Because Lily deserved a chance to avoid becoming the center of a family war. I asked him to meet me at a coffee shop halfway between Raleigh and Durham. He arrived 20 minutes late in a restaurant polo, smelling faintly of smoke. I brought the statement. He did not. I put a legal pad between us. I want the full balance restored. He stared at me. Immediately. I want a written repayment plan immediately. That is different. Fine, then start there. He rubbed both hands over his face. The restaurant cannot produce 68 grand. Then why did you take 68 grand? I thought I would replace it over 12 months. Where is that written? It wasn't formal. Of course it was. He leaned forward. You know what my problem is with you. I almost smiled. Apparently we have reached that part. You see everything as rules. People do not live inside rules. Trustees do. His jaw tightened. I kept afloat more times than you know. That stopped me. What does that have to do with Lily? She would have wanted me to survive this. You keep saying what dead people would want when their actual paperwork says something else. He slapped his palm lightly against the table. I am not stealing from Lily. Then sign a repayment agreement. He looked away. How much can you pay now? 5,000. Yes. And monthly. Maybe 2. At that rate, even without interest, repayment would take years. I asked about collateral. He laughed bitterly. What collateral? Restaurant equipment, your ownership interest, something. You want me to mortgage my life to my niece. I held his gaze. You already mortgaged hers to your restaurant. He stood so suddenly his chair knocked the table. People looked over. Sat back down. Quietly he said, if you involve lawyers, you will spend Lily's money fighting to recover Lily's money. It was the thing he said that day. Because he was right about the risk. Legal fights cost money. I did not want victory that left the trust empty. So I proposed one last arrangement. He would provide complete records within 7 days. He would acknowledge each transfer in writing. He would restore 5,000 immediately. He would sign a secured repayment agreement with monthly payments and a deadline before Lily's first college tuition bill. He would stop making any trust transactions except ordinary investment expenses without written notice to me. And he would resign as trustee once a neutral successor was appointed. His face went cold at the last item. "No. Then we do this formally. You want to take the trust away from me?" "Yes." He stared as if I had insulted him. "I am her uncle. So am I supposed to ignore what you did because you share her blood? You are not her parent." The sentence hit exactly where he meant it to. Had been Lily's parent. I was not trying to replace her. I was trying to keep one promise that death had left unfinished. I folded the statement. "You have 7 days." He did not send the records. On day 8 I hired. His office was in a converted brick building near downtown Raleigh. She listened without interrupting, then asked me one question. "Do you want the money restored or do you want your brother punished?" "Restored." "Good, those goals can overlap, but they are not the same strategy." She reviewed the trust document, had given the trustee discretion, but every distribution had to be for Lily's health, education, maintenance, or support. There was no authority to lend money to business, no authority to pay tuition, no authority to use the trust as a family emergency fund. Sent a formal demand for an accounting. His attorney responded that the trust had benefited from family stability and that all transfers were intended to be temporary. Read that sentence twice. Then she said, "Intent does not convert an unauthorized transaction into an authorized one." The bank records arrived 2 weeks later. They were worse than spreadsheet. The restaurant had received $39,500, just as he admitted. His university received $8,000. But the family reimbursement category included payments to his personal credit card. $11,000 total. The statements showed groceries, a hotel in Charlotte, car repairs, and restaurant supply purchases mixed together. The $6,000 emergency transportation payment was a down payment on a used delivery van titled to Smokehouse. The $4,000 labeled Trust Administration had been transferred into his personal checking account in 4 separate $1,000 payments. Asked, did the trust document authorize trustee compensation? Yes, reasonable compensation. Did he issue invoices or time records? No. That does not mean compensation was impossible. It means we need documentation. Provided none. Then came the record that changed the case from messy to simple. The restaurant's part-time bookkeeper, Vega, had entered the trust transfers into the company books, not as loans, as owner contributions. Obtained the records through formal discovery after filing a petition seeking his removal and a full accounting. His entries were ordinary bookkeeping, capital contribution M, owner funds, cash injection, no liability account, no repayment schedule, no balance owed to the trust. Had told me he borrowed the money. His business records treated it as his own money. Later admitted in a sworn statement that she had asked in January whether the restaurant needed to repay the family investment. He told her, not unless turns it into a problem. I read that sentence at his conference table. For a while I could not speak. Waited. Finally I said, he knew. Yes, he knew this was only a loan if I found out. That is one reasonable interpretation. The legal language helped. It kept my anger from deciding facts. Then I saw the East Carolina payment. $8,000, directly from Lily's trust to student account. No reimbursement request. No note. No document connecting it to Lily. When asked whether Lily knew about the payment, I said no. Does? I don't know. That question bothered me all night. I called the next day. He sounded nervous. Dad said you might call. Did he tell you why? Something about Lily's trust. Did you know $8,000 of your tuition came from it? Silence. Then what? I believed him immediately. He sounded sick. I thought Dad paid it. He said the restaurant had a good catering month. You didn't know? No. He started apologizing. I stopped him. This is not your debt. But it paid my bill. Huh? You did not authorize the transfer. After we hung up, I sat on the edge of my bed. That was the first moment I stopped thinking of the case as versus. Had used money connected to 3 grieving young people, Lily, and the memory of to solve his own fear. And he had called it family help. By the time the court scheduled the removal hearing, had restored $5,000. Then nothing. His attorney proposed mediation. Recommended we accept. If the trust can be repaired without burning $30,000 in legal fees, Lily is better off. That became our standard for every decision. Not does this hurt. Not does this prove I was right. Does this leave Lily better off? We prepared a settlement demand. would resign as trustee. A corporate fiduciary would take over. He would repay the unauthorized transfers, minus any amount later approved as reasonable trustee compensation. The restaurant would sign a promissory note secured by certain equipment and ownership interest, would personally guarantee the balance. Monthly payments would begin immediately. Any tax consequences created by the withdrawals would be his responsibility, and the trust would reimburse my legal fees only where the court found they were reasonably incurred for Lily's protection. I also asked to include something, was not to contact Lily about the litigation unless Lily initiated the conversation or I approved it. He had already texted her once to shape the story before she knew the facts. That would not happen again. The week before mediation, Mom came to my house. She brought a casserole. In our family, casseroles often arrived when nobody wanted to say the real thing. Lily was at an art class. Mom sat at my kitchen table. I talked to, so have I. He is scared. I know. He could lose the restaurant. I know. She looked frustrated. You keep saying you know. Because I do. Then where is your compassion? I took a slow breath. Compassion is why I offered repayment instead of demanding everything at once. Compassion is why I agreed to mediation. Compassion is not pretending Lily's money became S because he was afraid. Mom looked down at her hands. You used to be softer. No, I used to make other people comfortable faster. That silenced her. Then she said something I did not expect. I think I taught him this. I waited. When you were kids was always the one I sent to fix things. Your father traveled for work. I relied on him. If somebody needed money, I told to handle it. If was in trouble, handled it. He was 16 when Dad started traveling. I know. He became the family fixer. She nodded. And maybe he started believing fixing the family gave him the right to decide what belonged to everyone. For the first time, the pattern looked bigger than the trust. Was wrong, but he had not invented himself alone. That understanding did not change the plan. It did change the way I wanted the story to end. I did not want destroyed. I wanted him removed from the position that allowed his worst instinct to become someone else's loss. The night before mediation, Lily sat beside me on the couch. Are you nervous? Yes. Are we going to lose? I don't know. She pulled her knees up. What happens if Uncle can't pay it back? We worked through the options. She was quiet. Then she said, I don't want his restaurant to close because of me. I turned toward her. If his restaurant closes, it will not be because of you. But the money. The restaurant was already in trouble before he touched your trust. You did not create that problem. She looked unconvinced. I knew that feeling. Children in families like ours learn responsibility by proximity. If pain happens near you, you start wondering whether you caused it. I put my hand over hers. Protecting what your mother left you is not hurting someone else. The next morning, I carried that sentence into mediation with me. Mediation lasted nearly 7 hours. Began the day angry. By lunch, he was defensive. By late afternoon, he looked tired enough to tell the truth. The mediator was a retired judge named Helen. She had a quiet way of asking questions that made excuses sound louder than answers. She reviewed the trust document first, then the transactions, $39,500 to the restaurant, $11,000 to credit card, $8,000 to university, $6,000 toward the restaurant van, $4,000 to personally, $68,500 total. Interrupted. Some of the credit card charges were restaurant expenses. Helen nodded. Then documentation can identify them. They were mixed. That is the problem. He looked at. You people act like I bought a boat. No one said that, replied. I was saving a business. Helen asked, did Lily own the business? No. Was Lily employed by the business? No. Did the trust hold an investment interest in the business? No. Then explain how a capital contribution to the restaurant was for Lily's benefit. Leaned back. It preserved family income. Helen looked toward. How much income did the restaurant provide to Lily's household? Whispered none. That answer landed harder than any accusation. Then brought up tuition. Said that was $8,000. I was going to replace it. Helen asked did know the source. No. Did. No. Did Lily? No. So the only person who knew Lily's trust was paying tuition was you. Looked at the table. Yes. The room became still. Then he said the sentence he had used from the beginning. I was trying to help my family. I spoke. So was. Everyone looked at me. His face tightened. I continued. She bought life insurance because she knew she might not always be here to help Lily. That trust was her help. Stared at me. You think I don't miss her? I know you do. Then stop acting like I stole from a stranger. That makes it worse. He flinched. You knew exactly whose money it was. Started crying. Looked at her. What? She shook her head. I asked you if it had to be paid back. It does. No. You told me it would only become a problem if made at one. His face went pale. That was the moment I knew the marriage had its own betrayal inside mine. He turned toward her. That's not what I meant. It is exactly what you said. Helen called a break. In the hallway was sitting on a bench. I had not known he was there. He stood when he saw me. My dad asked me to come. For what? I think he wanted me to explain the tuition. You don't owe anyone an explanation. His eyes were red. I can pay it back. You are 20. I have a job. I don't want Lily thinking I took it. She doesn't. He looked relieved and devastated at the same time. When mediation resumed, his position changed. He agreed to resign as trustee. He agreed the restaurant transfers had to be repaid. The fight became about time. His first offer was 5 years. We said no. 3 years. Calculated the risk. The restaurant could survive monthly payments if revenue held steady, but the trust needed money before Lily's first college bills. Eventually, we reached a structure. Would pay $12,000 immediately through the sale of restaurant equipment he no longer used and personal savings. He would refinance a portion of his ownership interest through a small business lender to repay another $22,000 within 90 days. The remaining balance would be paid over 24 months with interest. If he defaulted, the note allowed collection against business assets. It was not dramatic. It was enforceable. That mattered more. The court approved the settlement and removed as trustee. A professional trust company took over. The judge still required an accounting hearing because trustee compensation and legal fees had not been resolved. That was where finally had to explain the $8,000 tuition payment in open court. The judge asked him what authorization connected tuition to Lily's benefit. Said there was none. She asked whether he understood at the time of the transfer that was not a beneficiary. He said yes. Then she asked the question that ended any argument over trustee compensation. Why should this court award full compensation for administering a trust you used for unauthorized family expenses? His attorney argued that had performed legitimate work during the first year. The judge agreed. She approved a reduced amount for documented services before the improper transfers began. The $4,000 had already paid himself was not fully allowed. Part of it was added back to what he owed. He did not lose the restaurant. That surprised relatives who had spent months saying I was trying to destroy him. The restaurant survived because cut costs, sold equipment, closed on Mondays and gave up plans for a second location. Took over bookkeeping completely. Remained. Every transfer now required documentation. Within 90 days, $34,000 had been restored to Lily's trust. The remaining balance became a monthly payment. The first time a payment posted under the new trustee, I showed Lily. She stared at the screen. So this is real. Yes, he can't just stop. He can, but there are consequences written into the agreement. She nodded slowly. That feels different. It did. Promises had defined our family for years. Paperwork felt colder, but paper had one advantage. It did not change its story when someone got uncomfortable. Paid nothing back. I insisted on that. Had made the transfer, had not requested it and did not know the source. Still, the incident changed him. He switched to a cheaper apartment the following semester and picked up more work hours. Lily told him he did not need to. He said, I know, I just want fewer things Dad can call emergencies. That sentence made me sad. Apologized to Lily 6 months after the settlement. Not because I arranged it. She asked to speak with him. They met at my house. I stayed in the kitchen, close enough to hear if she needed me but far enough to give them privacy. Said I convinced myself I was borrowing from the future. Lily asked whose future. There was a long silence. Yours. Then why didn't I get a vote? Started crying. I had seen my brother cry at its funeral. This was different. At the funeral, grief happened to him. Here consequence did. I don't have a good answer, he said. Lily nodded. Okay. She did not forgive him that day. She also did not punish him. She simply refused to make him feel better. Watching her, I realized she had learned something at 16 that took me 41 years. You can love a person without doing emotional labor for the harm they caused you. That was the most satisfying part of the entire case. Not the court order, not the restored money, the fact that the youngest person in the room no longer had to carry the oldest family habit. 18 months later, Lily's trust balance had recovered to just over $114,000 after repayments, investment changes, fees, and authorized education expenses. It was not exactly where it would have been if had never touched it. Life rarely returns numbers to the exact column where they started. But the damage was contained. More important, control was no longer personal. When Lily needed a laptop for college, we submitted the request to the trustee. When she enrolled in a summer design program, the trustee reviewed the invoice. There were rules. At first Lily found them annoying. Then she said, "I kind of like that nobody has to feel guilty." That was the point. Good systems do not only stop bad people. They protect ordinary people from making terrible choices when fear tells them the rules should bend just this once. Lily graduated high school with a portfolio full of landscapes, building sketches, and one painting of 3 empty chairs at a kitchen table. She never explained that one. She enrolled at North Carolina State and decided to study industrial design. On move-in day came. I had not expected him. He carried boxes, tightened a loose desk leg, and stayed mostly quiet. Before he left, he handed Lily an envelope. She looked at me. I said, "Open it." Inside was a check for $1,000 from his personal account. The memo line said, "For books, gift, not trust repayment." Lily laughed. Did too. It was awkward. Healthy things often are when a family is used to unhealthy efficiency. His restaurant is still open. Smaller now. More stable. Remains in charge of the books. And I speak occasionally. We are not close the way we were before die. Maybe we never were. Maybe we had simply been good at playing our assigned roles. Fixed money problems. I fixed medical problems. Fixed feelings. Then died, and the system lost the one person who kept translating us to each other. For a while, tried to fix grief with money. I tried to fix conflict by avoiding it. Neither worked. Mom eventually apologized for pressuring me. She said I was terrified of losing another piece of the family. I told her keeping everybody in the same room is not the same as keeping a family healthy. She did not argue. That was progress. As for me, I stopped seeing the lawsuit as revenge a long time ago. The revenge, if you want to call it that, was simpler. Believed the family would absorb his decision. Instead, the decision stayed attached to the person who made it. He had to document it, repay it, explain it, live with it. Nobody destroyed his life. Nobody rescued him from consequence either. And Lily learned that what her mother left her mattered enough to protect. Sometimes she asks what would think about everything. I am careful with that question. I will not use my dead sister the way the rest of us did during the fight. So I tell Lily the truth. I don't know exactly what your mom would say. Then I add the one thing I do know. But she created the trust for you. That is enough. If you discovered that someone you loved had taken money from a teenager's trust because they believed they could replace it later, would you give them time to fix it privately? Or would you remove them the moment you saw the first unauthorized transfer?